Hi everyone, my name is Shweta Arora and today we are going to talk about the mindset that 99 percentilers have in these last few days of the CAT exam. I personally believe that 99 percentilers do 10 things that help them get that extra edge over the other candidates. So we're going to talk about the first point, which is mock environment. When I was preparing for the CAT exam, I was a Delhi University student. So I was living away from my home in a PG and the environment there wasn't suitable for me to be taking mocks. By then I had taken a lot of mocks in the proctored setting, which means I had gone to the test center, I had taken mocks there, so I had already experienced that bit. But it was getting very difficult for me to take the non-proctored mocks sitting in the PG. So I decided to make sure that my mock environment is the most suitable representation of what will be happening on the exam day. I took the call and I spent the November month in my home trying to take the mocks from here than sitting in Delhi and taking them from there. So this is a personal call. You can take it for yourself depending on how the environment is where you're taking the mock. So a recommendation to you would be, if you are currently in a situation where you're not able to deliver your best because of your environment, I would recommend changing it so that you can test how do you perform in the environment, which will be very similar to how the environment will be in the CAT exam center. Point number 2 is working on your weaker areas. This is something that 99 percentilers definitely do very differently than all other aspirants. Some aspirants might be covering the syllabus right now. Some aspirants might in fact be going through all the questions or all the topics simultaneously. But what toppers do differently is that they generally have a set agenda after every mock and before they take the next mock. So in the time period between the two mocks, they always have some weaker areas that they would like to work on before taking the next mock. When they are deciding which topic to select to be able to work on it, they have two criteria mainly. The number one criteria is their accuracy rate in those different topics. So they evaluate which topic had the lowest accuracy by going through the advanced analysis that most mocks offer, and then they make a list of the topics in which they think they had the lowest accuracy. The second factor that they use is the weightage. Every topic has different weightage in the CAT exam. If you're spending a lot of time working on a topic but its weight to the CAT exam is not a lot, then it's a wasted effort. On the other hand, if you understand which topics are the most important, for example, arithmetic in quant or RCs in VARC are the most important. So when you analyze that they are weighted also and they are weaker also, then you can decide on the topic you're going to work on before taking the next mock. The third point is to create a balance between attempt rate and accuracy rate. The toppers understand that the percentile depends on only two variables. It's your attempt rate and your accuracy rate. Now there has to be a balance between the attempt rate and the accuracy rate for you to be able to achieve that 99 percentile mark. For example, in the quant section, most of the engineers have a better command and they're able to attempt more questions and also get them right. So if you are a non-engineer, probably your strategy should be to work more on your accuracy rate, ensuring that even if you attempt slightly lesser than them, you at least get the questions right. On the other hand, in the verbal ability section, everybody has a level playing field, and it has often been observed that you need a much higher attempt rate in verbal ability than the other two sections to be able to get the same 99 percentile mark. So go ahead and experiment in your mocks and see what balance of attempt and accuracy works the best for you. I personally recommend 90% attempt rate and 80% accuracy rate in verbal ability and 80% attempt and 80% accuracy in DILR as well as in quant. Fourth point is about comparison. The toppers are very smart in this respect and they understand that there is no point in comparing themselves with other at this point of time. I literally had a lot of batchmates from IIM Ahmedabad who shared that they had a very low mock score during this time, just 2-3 months before the CAT exam, and they were able to improve that to 99 because they trusted the process. They knew what was supposed to be done. On the other hand, I also know of examples of my batchmates from undergrad college wherein they were not able to perform up to the mark just because they were constantly comparing how others are doing and were also getting demotivated by the fact that their mock scores aren't increasing. A simple recommendation here would be to get out of all such Telegram groups, all such WhatsApp groups, all such Facebook groups where you feel there is toxicity and where you feel like the environment is not actually helping you improve and instead you're falling into the trap of comparison. Set smaller goals for you. If you are at a 70 percentile mark, set 70 plus 5 percentile as your next target. Don't set 99 percentile as your target. You should remember that even though the competition is with other aspirants, at the end of the day, you are only comparing with the self that you were yesterday. So don't try comparing yourself with others. Instead, look at the percentile you are at and try understanding how can you achieve that increment of 5 percentile points in the next mock. The fifth point is regarding the gap between the mock and the analysis. So whenever the 99 percentilers take a mock, they do understand that it's an extensive process and it consumes energy. So before taking up the work of analyzing the mock, they often take a gap of at least 2 to 3 hours to rejuvenate themselves. But they are also mindful that they have to analyze the mock within the 24 hours of taking it. Now, why is this important? Because when you take a mock, you would be using some logic of marking an option. Especially in the VARC section, there is a whole technique called rational building, wherein you use a certain logic to eliminate the different options and to arrive at the right answer. Now, if you are analyzing the mock after 24 hours of having taken it, there is a likelihood that you would actually forget how you arrived at the right answer, which is extremely important for you to be able to compare it with the solution and to understand whether your logic was right or not. So if you want to develop better logic, especially in the BRC section, you should analyze the mock within the 24 hours, but keeping a gap of at least 2 to 3 hours between the mock as well as the analysis. Point number 6 is to set a routine. It is said that if you do the same thing at the same time, you do it better. So when you take a mock, try taking it at the same time every single day. For now, you can go ahead and take one mock on each of the 3 slots or 2 slots that are offered for the CAT exam. But once you get the slot in which you are actually going to take the CAT exam, start taking the mock exactly at that time. This helps in setting your biological clock. This will ensure that because you are taking the mock at the same time every single day, especially towards the end of the mock test series, you would realize that your mind is the most active when the mock begins. So set a routine. Every time I had to take a mock, I either took it at 9 a.m. which used to be the morning slot and around 1:30 p.m. which used to be the afternoon slot. Point number 7 is to experiment with your attempt strategy. While you are taking the mock, you have the liberty to see what is working the best for you. For example, in the VARC section, are you going to attempt the RCs first or are you going to attempt the verbal ability questions first? Similarly, in DILR, are you going to be scanning the questions and do you have a time limit per set that you're going to be spending in DILR? Similarly, in quants, in how many rounds are you going to solve the different questions? These are a lot of attempt strategies for each section. This is the best time for you to be experimenting with each strategy and trying to understand what is working out the best for you. You can make use of sectional tests, topic tests, even mock tests for the purpose of testing which attempt strategy works the best for you. And once you have decided it, you have to be consistent with it in the month of November. So spend the month of October in trying to understand which is the attempt strategy you are going to be using, and in the month of November, you use the same strategy on a consistent basis, trying to ensure that whenever the section starts, you know what are you supposed to do in the first 2 minutes or 3 minutes. This will ensure that you don't panic in the exam. Point number 8 is regarding revising the formula book. I hope all of you have created formula books for yourself, especially in the quant section. You have to revise this formula book on a weekly basis. There are actually 2 occasions when you can do this. One is on the weekend and the other is just before you're taking the mock. When you go through the formula book again and again, just before you're taking the mock, the concepts are fresh in your mind and you're able to recall them better. Similarly, on the exam day also, just because you would have revised the formula book around 10 to 20 times before taking the final exam, the concepts would be so fresh in your mind that the likelihood of going blank in the exam would be very low. So I would suggest that if you're going to take around 10 to 20 mocks and you are also going to have a lot of weekends coming forward, make sure that on these 2 occasions you are revising your formula book entirely from the beginning to the end. Point number 9 is to remember that 1 or 2 mocks don't matter. So 99 percentilers have a very input oriented mind and not an output oriented mind. What this means is they understand that if they are putting the right efforts in the right direction, the result is obvious and it will follow. On the other hand, a lot of aspirants start getting worried if 1 or 2 mocks don't go well. If you have been consistently scoring a certain percentile, it could be any range, and if you're suddenly dropping in the percentile in 1 or 2 mocks, it doesn't matter. Instead, try evaluating the percentile of your last 5 mocks as an average. Many of the 99 percentilers also also plot these numbers on an Excel sheet and they try making a graph to see whether it has an upward trend or a downward trend. That should be a good reflection of where you're standing as compared to evaluating yourself on a mock basis. So I would suggest you to become more input oriented. Try understanding what can you do between those 3 days or 5 days before you take the next mock, instead of worrying about the percentile, which is also why it is important to take a break of 2 to 3 hours before you analyze the mock, because often when we don't score well in a mock, we end up not analyzing it. That's the biggest blunder you could be doing. It is an opportunity for you to understand what changed, what variable did not work this time. That can help you understand what not to do or what to do in the next mock. So use every single mock as an opportunity, irrespective of how much you are scoring. Try analyzing it and understanding what to do in the next one. Point number 10 and the final one is to practice less and take more mocks instead. So this is a strategy that most 99 percentilers use. Their focus is not to practice a lot of questions in those 3 or 5 days that you have between the 2 mocks. Their agenda is actually to take more mocks and to analyze them well. So the time that they spend on taking the mock is in fact lesser than the time that they spend on analyzing the mock. On some days I used to spend 3 to 4 hours on simply analyzing every section properly. It is only after I have done my share of work in analyzing a mock that I will know exactly what to work on the next one. When you sit to analyze the mock, you can in fact consider the paper to be 3 separate papers. You can start by analyzing every single section separately also. And when you are doing that, for every section, you don't only go through the questions that you got incorrect or you did not attempt. You also go through the questions that you got correct, because it is equally important to understand whether the logic of marking the option was right or wrong. At the end of going through this exercise for all the 3 sections, you also create some notes for you, which will clearly mention one thing for each section that you're going to do before you take the next mock. I have often suggested it to aspirants that if you don't change anything between those 2 mocks and if you don't know what you're working on during those 3 days or 5 days, nothing is going to change. When you're not changing the inputs, the outputs will not change. So rather than pointlessly solving questions or practicing so many questions without any direction, first of all, try understanding where are you lacking. Pick one thing for each section, spend time on it for the next 3 days or 5 days, and then take a mock. After taking the mock, the first thing you should do is to check whatever I worked on. Did it work? Did it get better? If it did not, still set it as a priority and then set to analyze the mock and find out more things to be worked on before the next mock. Carry out this process until you feel you have mostly sorted out the things that are your weaker areas. That's actually the strategy to be improving your percentile. So these were the 10 things that I wanted to recommend you that 99 percentilers do differently. I hope they bring some fresh perspective and help you score more in the mocks. All the best, guys.